Major Garrett is here with us from Youngstown, Ohio. Major, you've been to a number of Trump rallies. It certainly seems like the violence is escalating. Is that the case, or was there violence before but we just didn't notice? And if it is escalating, what do you think's behind it?
Oh, it's quite obviously escalating. This is different in kind in every way from what I saw in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and every stop on the campaign before last weekend. There just was not this concentrated level of demonstrations, protests, and or clashes between those demonstrating and those supporting Donald Trump. The reason behind it, the stakes are much higher. Donald Trump is no longer a theoretical Republican nominee. He is a likely Republican nominee. The country is responding to that. They don't see Donald Trump in the same maybe semi-benign way or comical way they saw him 2 or 3 months ago. Those who are nervous and agitated by Trump's message and his approach to politics and rhetoric are now standing up and being counted. In that process, they are coming face to face with Trump supporters, and that is creating a, if not toxic environment, a certainly very tense environment. And it's also about the geography. Look, Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina. South Carolina has a large African-American population, to be sure, but it doesn't have the history of urban activism, if you will, or college-infused activism that you saw Friday in St. Louis, very close to the Black Lives Matter movement in Ferguson, Missouri, or Chicago. As this campaign moves on and comes closer to the rest of America, and as Donald Trump looks more and more likely to be the Republican nominee, those who disagree vehemently with his message have decided that they're going to show up. They're going to show up in numbers, and they're going to agitate. They're going to protest. They're going to ask for their voice to be heard, and they're not going to go to some designated protest zone. They're going to be right in the middle of the fray because they believe Donald Trump, from their perspective, represents a clear and present danger to the democracy or the attitude of politics that they've come to cherish and admire. And so we have now openly, I think, clashes that were being discussed as potential clashes maybe 2 or 3 months ago. Will they continue? There's no reason to believe they will not. And it seems that Trump is either going to have to dramatically change his message or stay with his current message of blaming protesters and saying, hey, I'm being shouted down. I have a message. I've got votes. Stick with me, supporters, and then we'll see how this all plays out. But it is definitely a different stage of this campaign than anything I saw before last week.
Yeah, I find it very interesting that, you talked about the different cities where the clashes were. A city like Chicago with a large African-American population, but Trump is blaming Bernie Sanders supporters, and we've been talking about one of the problems with Bernie Sanders is he doesn't seem to be able to woo African-American voters. I found it to be an interesting strategy that he would say, oh, it's the Sanders people as opposed to the Democratic frontrunner right now, Hillary Clinton.
Right, and that's a bit of scapegoating of Bernie Sanders because Trump says, well, Sanders has lots of young supporters, younger comparatively than Hillary Clinton's supporters, and therefore he may be the one easiest to blame. But if there's anything that has been somewhat consistent about the Trump campaign, there's a lot of blame finding, whether it's over economics or other elements of national security, a lot of blame finding. And Trump is someone who reaches quickly for a scapegoat and tries to find someone other than his supporters or his campaign that bears any responsibility for this. And the country's going to watch that play out, and they're going to ascribe their own motives and their own blame as this campaign moves forward. One thing that is clear now is this is all out in the open, and the country is evaluating it minute by minute, day by day.
So moving forward, we've got a couple of big, huge contests coming up on Tuesday. Florida and Ohio are both winner take all, but Trump has decided to cancel an event in Florida in favor of focusing on Ohio. How important is it for him to take at least the two biggies, Ohio and Florida? And if he doesn't, if he only maybe gets one, can he still move forward? Is he still going to be the front runner?
Oh, sure, because look, he's now decided that Florida is more or less a settled issue. If he thought Florida was still up for grabs and very competitive, he would be campaigning there, but he no longer believes that. That's why he canceled a rally in Florida today and is coming up here to Ohio. And the polls certainly would indicate that Trump has a large and comfortable lead in Florida. 99 delegates, winner take all. He only needs to win by 1 vote, and he gets all 99 delegates. So he's up here in Ohio, where this race has become very competitive. And the sitting Ohio governor, John Kasich, is in a real match with Trump here in his home state of Ohio. 66 delegates, also winner take all. But to your broader question about everything that transpires on Tuesday, 3 other states are voting as well: Illinois, Missouri, and North Carolina. Trump is favored there, though Ted Cruz has a very solid campaign going in Missouri, and he's getting a better campaign going in Illinois. In the main, if Trump wins Ohio and Florida, that's a lot of delegates, and does well in those other 3 states, he lengthens his lead over the entire field, and specifically Ted Cruz. And if Kasich loses in Ohio and Rubio loses in Florida, they'll have to drop out. Maybe not instantly, but certainly very soon, because you can't run a national campaign with any credibility if you don't win your own home state. But Ohio is definitely a jump ball, no question about it. And Kasich knows the state well, has a deeply embedded, active organization, just won re-election in the last 2 years, knows how to move votes, knows how to close the deal. He'll have Mitt Romney with him in 2 stops later today, 1 in Canton and 1 in suburban Columbus. So the full court press is on from Kasich to at least hold Ohio and create a mathematical problem for Trump, at least now, reaching that magic number of 1,237 delegates required to secure the Republican nomination.
All right, Major Garrett in Youngstown, Ohio. Thanks a lot, Major.
My pleasure.